Sophia Bennett always believed she was in control of her life. As a newly graduated law student, she prided herself on being cautious, calculated, and always prepared. But nothing in her carefully curated plans could have prepared her for this morning, waking up surrounded by a level of luxury she had never dared to imagine. Golden sunlight streamed through towering floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a soft, dreamlike glow. As Sophia's eyes adjusted to the light, she was overwhelmed by the scene. Marble floors gleaming in the sun, silk sheets wrapping around her like a cloud, and the sprawling city skyline stretching infinitely beyond the glass. Her chest tightened with a mixture of awe and unease. This world wasn't hers, and it felt as surreal as it was unsettling. Sophia's heart raced as she struggled to piece together her fragmented memories. She recalled the graduation party last night. Laughter, glittering lights, free cocktails offered by strangers. But after that, everything faded into a fog, as if someone had cut the film of her memories. Panic began to creep in. This wasn't her modest studio apartment, with its secondhand furniture and familiar clutter. This was a stranger's world, opulent and alien, like a dream, but also unnervingly real. A soft knock at the door jolted her back to the present. Her gaze darted toward the doorway as it creaked open. A man stepped inside, holding 2 steaming cups of coffee. He was tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, and carried himself with a calm, commanding air. "Good morning," he said, his voice smooth and steady. "I trust you're feeling better after last night?" Sophia stared at the stranger. For a moment, she wondered if this was some bizarre dream, but his calm gaze and steady voice grounded her back to reality. "I know this isn't where you expected to wake up," the man said, gently placing a cup of coffee on the bedside table. "I'm Damien Carter. We met last night at your graduation party." Sophia frowned, trying to piece together her hazy memories. Bits and pieces started to emerge: sparkling lights, her friends' laughter, the free cocktails offered by strangers. But then, nothing. "You brought me here?" she asked, her voice tinged with suspicion. Damien nodded, his expression composed yet serious. "Yes. You weren't in a good state, and a group of people seemed intent on taking you with them. I couldn't let that happen." His words sent a chill down her spine. The thought of what could have happened made her stomach twist. "Why would you help me?" she asked, trying to mask her unease with curiosity. Damien stepped back slightly, maintaining a respectful distance. "I did what I thought was right. If you'd like, you can check everything. I slept on the couch. I just wanted to make sure you were safe." His candor caught her off guard. Sophia studied him, searching his eyes for any hint of deception, but all she saw was sincerity. I don't know what to say," she murmured. "There's no need to thank me," Damien replied, a faint smile softening his otherwise composed features. "If you're ready, breakfast is prepared in the kitchen. It might help you feel better." Sophia hesitated but eventually followed him. The bright kitchen greeted her with an elaborate breakfast spread: toast, fresh fruit, and dishes plated with care. Damien gestured for her to sit, and as they made small talk, the tension in her chest began to ease. 2 weeks later, Sophia began her dream job at Sterling Legal Group, a prestigious law firm she had long aspired to join. Her first morning was a mix of excitement and nerves as she walked through the sleek, glass-walled building bathed in natural light, feeling like she was stepping into a whole new chapter of her life. After being introduced to her colleagues and getting familiar with the office, she quickly immersed herself in her work. But her excitement was interrupted when she was informed that she would be attending a key leadership meeting to discuss a major client. Sophia gathered her notes and stepped into the conference room, her nerves on edge. But as she looked up, time seemed to freeze. At the head of the room stood Damien Carter, impeccably dressed in a sharp charcoal suit, exuding authority and confidence. Her heart stuttered as their eyes locked, even for a brief moment. Damien's professional demeanor remained unwavering, yet Sophia couldn't miss the subtle flicker of recognition in his gaze, a silent acknowledgement of the morning that had altered the course of her otherwise predictable life. "Our team is thrilled to be collaborating with Carter & Associates on this project," the CEO of Sterling Legal Group announced, breaking the silence. Throughout the meeting, Sophia struggled to focus on the documents in front of her. Her thoughts kept drifting back to Damien. Did he remember that morning, or was it just a fleeting moment in his busy life? When the meeting ended, Sophia hurried out, hoping to avoid any interaction. But a familiar voice stopped her in her tracks. "Sophia," Damien called, his voice steady and composed. She turned around, meeting his intent gaze. "I didn't expect to see you again so soon," he said, a faint smile crossing his face. Sophia tried to steady her breathing. "It's a small world," she replied lightly, though her tone carried a hint of caution. They stood in silence for a moment, the air between them thick with unspoken words, until one of her colleagues approached, breaking the moment. Damien nodded politely and walked away, leaving Sophia standing there with a whirlwind of questions she didn't yet know how to answer. Sophia was working late in her office when an unmarked envelope appeared on her desk. At first, she thought it might be work, but a strange feeling of unease made her hesitate. When she finally opened it, she found a thick stack of documents and a small note that read, "Know who your new friend really is before it's too late." Flipping through the papers, her stomach twisted. The documents contained damning accusations against Damien, controversial mergers, questionable financial dealings, and old articles implying he had used dubious tactics to achieve his success. But what stopped her cold was a photo attached at the end of the file. In the picture, Damien was carrying her, clearly intoxicated, into a building she instantly recognized as his apartment. Memories of that night flickered back, and she realized it was from when Damien had brought her home after the graduation party. That evening, as Sophia sat in the quiet of her apartment, her phone suddenly rang. An unknown number flashed on the screen. She hesitated, then answered. "Miss Bennett," a deep, cold voice greeted her. "I trust you've received my materials." "Who is this?" Sophia asked, her voice tense but steady. "Victor Grayson," the man replied, his tone smooth yet calculating. "I believe you understand why I'm calling." Sophia frowned, the unease growing in her chest. "Why would you send this to me?" Victor chuckled. "Because you're Damien Carter's new weak spot. I've noticed how he's taken a particular interest in you, and I have every reason to believe he isn't as clean as he appears." Sophia's pulse quickened. "What do you want from me?" "Simple," Victor said, his voice chillingly casual. "Confirm that Damien Carter exploited you, in every sense of the word. Do that, and I'll ensure these documents never reach the press." Sophia tightened her grip on the phone. "And if I refuse?" Victor's chuckle was sharp and cold. "Then the documents go public. Along with the photo, I think you wouldn't want people talking about what state you were in that night." The call ended, leaving Sophia frozen. How did Victor know so much? Could Damien really be trusted? After several agonizing minutes, she reached for Damien's business card, her hand trembling as she dialed. "Miss Bennett?" Damien's voice was filled with concern. "We need to talk," Sophia said, trying to keep her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. Damien arrived at Sophia's small apartment less than an hour after her call. The soft knock on the door startled her, and she took a deep breath, trying to compose herself before opening it. Her trembling hands betrayed her calm facade. When the door swung open, Damien's eyes immediately locked onto hers. He looked calm, but a hint of worry flickered in his sharp gaze. "Sophia?" he said softly, his voice steady and reassuring. "What happened?" She motioned for him to come inside, saying nothing at first. As they both sat down, she placed the envelope on the table between them. "Victor Grayson sent this," she said, her voice trembling slightly. Damien picked up the stack of documents, his fingers tightening slightly as he flipped through the pages. When he reached the photo, his expression darkened, a mix of anger and concern flashing across his face. Silence stretched between them, heavy and charged, before he finally met Sophia's eyes. "Sophia," he said, his voice low and resolute, "I know how this looks, but you need to believe me. I'll make sure Victor's lies don't harm you." "Do you know what this feels like?" Sophia asked, her voice a mixture of confusion and anger. "It's not just accusations, it's that photo. How does Victor even have this, and why am I being dragged into this mess?" Damien exhaled deeply, sitting straighter as if preparing for battle. "Victor plays dirty," he said, his voice calm but firm. "He's had people following me for months. I don't know how he got that photo, but he's using it to weaken me. And the accusations in the documents? Sophia pressed, her voice still unsteady. How much of it is true? Damien met her gaze directly. Sophia, every deal Victor mentioned is completely legal, even if it might seem ruthless on the surface. I've never done anything illegal. You're welcome to check if you need to. Sophia stayed silent, searching his eyes for any trace of deception. So what am I supposed to do? Victor wants me to confirm his story, to say you manipulated me. If I don't, he's threatening to destroy both of us. Damien leaned forward, his eyes filled with determination. You don't have to do anything you don't believe is right. But I won't let Victor win. We need to face him with the truth. Sophia repeated, as if testing the weight of the word. Yes, Damien said firmly, his voice carrying a promise. We'll get through this together. I won't let you fight this alone. Sophia exhaled slowly, the helplessness in her chest beginning to fade. She looked at Damien, feeling the conviction in his words. All right, she said with a nod. The next morning, Sophia and Damien met at his office to plan their next move. The atmosphere in the meeting room was tense, but their determination overshadowed any apprehension. We need to be clear and transparent, Damien said firmly, placing the documents on the table. Victor won't back down without a fight, but he doesn't have the truth. All he has are lies and intimidation. Sophia nodded, trying to steady her nerves. So, what do we do? Victor has painted you as a dangerous man, and me. She hesitated, recalling the humiliating photo. I feel like I'm the weak link he's trying to exploit. Damien's expression softened as he looked at her. Sophia, you're not a weak link. You're the reason I won't let him win. We'll hold a press conference, bring everything into the light before Victor has a chance to twist it further. Sophia exhaled, her anxiety bubbling to the surface. Are you sure? What about the documents and the photo? People might not believe us. People will believe the truth if we're strong enough to stand by it, Damien replied, his voice steady and resolute. Trust me, this is the only way. The press conference was held at a prominent downtown hotel. As they walked into the packed room filled with journalists, the flashing cameras made Sophia feel dizzy. But when she glanced at Damien, his calm demeanor seemed to ground her. Damien took the podium first, his voice steady yet commanding. Victor's allegations are baseless and fabricated. Every deal he's mentioned has been audited and proven legal. This isn't just an attack on my reputation. It's a calculated attempt to undermine integrity and trust, and I won't allow that. Then it was Sophia's turn. She recounted the events of the graduation party, explaining how Damien had helped her when she was unable to take care of herself. The photo Victor used is real, she said, her voice steady and clear. But it only tells part of the story. Damien helped me in a moment when I couldn't help myself. There was nothing more to it. The room fell silent for a moment before a flurry of questions erupted. Sophia felt her anxiety rising, but when Damien reached over and held her hand, the tension eased. In the end, Victor couldn't withstand the pressure of the evidence and truth presented by Damien. His documents were proven to be forgeries, and he faced charges of defamation and blackmail. As Sophia and Damien left the press conference, the cameras continued to flash, but this time they didn't feel fear. The truth had prevailed. The media storm finally subsided, leaving behind a peace that Sophia and Damien had long awaited. Standing on the balcony of Damien's penthouse, they gazed at the glittering city lights. Without saying a word, they both felt a shared relief, as if the heavy burden they had carried for so long had finally been lifted. We did it, Sophia said, her eyes sparkling as she turned to Damien. We did, Damien replied with a nod, pride shining in his gaze. But it wasn't just me, it was your courage that made all the difference. Sophia smiled, her heart warming in a way she hadn't felt before. She realized that the challenges they had faced didn't just expose the truth, they had brought them closer together. In the days that followed, Damien proposed an idea that carried profound meaning, creating a nonprofit organization to help those who had been harmed by manipulation or exploitation in the legal world. We can use our experiences to make a difference, Damien said, his eyes lighting up with determination. Sophia agreed without hesitation. She took on the role of managing the organization, pouring her legal expertise and skills into building effective support programs. As they worked together, their relationship deepened even further. One special evening, Damien brought Sophia back to where it all began, his penthouse. With the city lights twinkling in the background, he knelt down, holding out a small box containing a dazzling ring. "Sophia Bennett, you haven't just changed my life. You've shown me that true strength comes from honesty and trust. Will you marry me?" Damien asked, his voice filled with sincerity. Tears welled up in Sophia's eyes as she smiled and nodded. "Yes, I will." A few months later, they held an intimate wedding surrounded by their closest loved ones. On a windswept beach, with the sunset painting the sky in hues of gold, Sophia and Damien exchanged vows, promising to stand by each other for the rest of their lives. The two began their new chapter in a serene seaside home. Not long after, on a sunny morning, Sophia approached Damien, her hand resting gently on her stomach. "We're going to have a new addition to our family," she said, her voice brimming with joy. Damien froze, then broke into a radiant smile. He pulled her into his arms, feeling the happiness of knowing that they were about to become a real family. The months following Sophia's pregnancy announcement were filled with love and anticipation. Damien, already a devoted husband, spent even more time caring for her. He immersed himself in learning everything about pregnancy, from proper nutrition to preparing for the big day. "You don't need to do anything, just rest and let me handle everything," Damien often said, placing a warm cup of herbal tea in her hands and adjusting the pillows behind her back. Sophia laughed. "You make me feel like a queen." "That's because you are my queen," Damien replied, his eyes full of affection. In the later months, they worked on setting up the nursery. Damien insisted on perfection, from selecting the paint color for the walls to arranging toys neatly on the shelves. Sophia often watched him fuss over every detail, her heart swelling with happiness. One rainy morning, as they prepared breakfast, Sophia suddenly clutched her stomach, her face tightening with concern. "Damien, I think it's time," she exclaimed, her voice trembling. Damien reacted immediately, as though he had rehearsed for this moment his entire life. He grabbed the hospital bag they had packed weeks ago, gently helped Sophia into the car, and drove straight to the hospital, unfazed by the heavy rain blurring the windshield. At the hospital, Sophia was rushed into the delivery room. Damien held her hand tightly, his eyes steady and reassuring. "You've got this, Sophia," he said, his voice calm yet firm. After hours of tense anticipation, the sound of a baby's cry filled the room, and then another cry followed. "Congratulations," the doctor said with a smile. "You have twin girls. Both are healthy?" Damien froze for a moment, his face awash with disbelief before it lit up with pure joy. "We have two princesses," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. They named their daughters Isla and Sophie. Holding the two tiny miracles in their arms, Sophia and Damien knew every struggle had been worth it. A few weeks later, in the tranquility of their seaside home, Sophia sat in a rocking chair, humming softly as she lulled Isla to sleep. Damien stood nearby, cradling Sophie with a gentle smile, his gaze shifting between the twins and the horizon. The rhythmic crash of waves seemed to echo their newfound peace. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Sophia asked softly, her voice filled with wonder. Damien leaned down, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Every step was worth it," he whispered, "and this is just the beginning." "We have everything we could ever want," Sophia said, her eyes brimming with love as she looked at Damien. "And it all started with you," Damien replied, leaning down to kiss her forehead gently. Their family, bound by love and resilience, was the ultimate symbol of their new beginning.